Villain troubles. Good versus evil. The Republic versus the Confederacy. The Rebellion versus the Empire. The Jedi versus the Sith. The Resistance versus the First Order. Rey versus Kylo Ren. Notice that as we go along the list, the line between good and evil begins to merge, which begins to start making it blatantly obvious as to where the story should have been heading in The Last Jedi.
Grey Jedi.
In order to feel any sort of investment in these new Star Wars stories, it should have been clear early on before filming who the bad guys were going to be and where the story would be going. This wouldn't need to be in great detail, but merely an overview, something that the other directors should be able to look at and write their movies creatively along the lines of the grand overall scheme for the bad guys and the threat. This is where I think Kathleen really screwed up, and I think Rian Johnson has a lot to blame for this too. I'll give credit to JJ for creating an opposing force which gave room for growth and development in future movies, but after Rian Johnson finished with The Last Jedi, he completely destroyed JJ Abrams' vision. A vision where I'm pretty sure he didn't intend on Snoke being killed off in the second film. This was executed so poorly by Rian Johnson, it wasn't even treated as the climax of the film. After that happened, I started to doubt everything they've created. I began to realize Disney Lucasfilm really don't have a clue, just writing out their stories one at a time with no real thought or long-term investment in the overall story, which in turn makes all the movies seem very disconnected. If you think about it, there's zero threat for our heroes, and what makes it even worse is the hero is already more powerful than the threat.
Fatality.
So how are we, the audience, meant to feel any sort of build-up and tension in the story if the real threat still hasn't already been established?
I feel nothing.
To me, every time I see the First Order on screen, I just think it's a rehash of the Empire, the Rebellion, the Jedi and Sith, X-Wing, A-Wing, AT-AT.
In talking about what this next saga, what this next 10 years might be, obviously Rian Johnson's involved in those conversations because he'll be doing some of that.
Time to abandon ship.
When studying this, to me, it's become apparent that this whole Resistance versus the First Order bad guy thing has become very tired and worn out, to the point it's just not interesting anymore. I don't know about you, but I was almost happy by the end of The Last Jedi to see the Resistance nearly get wiped out, because perhaps it might have forced the writers to think up something new for episode 9. And they escaped again, and you bet they'll come back bigger and stronger, and we'll be led to believe that the stakes are even higher in the next movie. I just wish instead of telling us these things in the movie's title crawl, how about showing us some of these interesting bits we should be seeing and create a story around that? How the Resistance was formed, maybe. How the First Order came about. That sounds cool. Why don't we make a movie about that? To me, I always thought the First Order should have been the good guys, and they should have been the Republic Army, and the current bad guys should have been the rogues, the breakaways, the stowaways, whatever you'd like to call them. At the moment, there's no consequences for either side. Starkiller Base gets destroyed. Oh wait, the First Order have taken over the galaxy within minutes of The Force Awakens according to The Last Jedi. How? When? Why? Why didn't we see that? It sounds cool. We're just told these vital bits of information, which should be the very thing that's being portrayed on screen and should actually be the story. How these forces came about would be far more interesting and exciting as opposed to all the crap we've had to endure so far.
Urgent message for him about his mother. That puny ship is too small and to too close range. Fire on the base! For fuck's sake, I fucking had enough!
It screams the obvious to me. No one at Lucasfilm is creative enough to think up something new and exciting. It's just all the same crap we've seen before. Perhaps they need to stop thinking politically about who's creating these movies and think about the most important thing, which is the story. Take the new story group, for example. You can guarantee they've only hired these people not because they're right for the job, but because for the sake of diversity. The one word that is destroying Star Wars. I'm the last person to have anything bad to say about diversity, but what I will say is that I'm a strong believer in that if someone is right for the the job, then that is the person who should be hired. Their gender, ethnicity shouldn't even come into the equation. It seems strange to me that Lucasfilm and the media seem to make such a big thing about the backgrounds of the people who are working in these new Star Wars films. I don't care, and I'm pretty sure any normal person wouldn't care either.
Just hire the best people for the job.
The fact that this shield garbage media on Lucasfilm or whoever are recognizing that it's a person of color, to me, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Because it's like they're singling out that person. Like the garbage media writer already acknowledges something different about that person. And however much they may say it's a good thing, and that it's good to be diverse, to me it creates an awkward tone because they feel like it's necessary to bring it up for some reason. They feel a compelling urge to write about it. Why? This just sums up Star Wars right now. They need to stop focusing on who, what, when is working on what and how much that person knows about something, and actually put some attention into the story. We want the story to be good. So with this massive villain problem going into episode 9, if it were down to me, I would have made the bad guys more of an imposing threat, and made decisions which allow the story to build, and not to do a Rian Johnson and destroy everything before anything has even happened. Not only have the villains amounted to nothing, even the smaller subplots make no coherent sense and fail to come up with something original, exciting, and Star Warsy. Instead, they're filled to the brim with anticlimactic filler scenes like the Radis scene, which felt more like a boring chase scene which took up the whole entire movie. Oh wait, it did. Thanks, Ryan. The villains in the space chase scene, if you could call it a chase, more a follow, make the lousiest decisions, which makes you question their abilities as leaders and being a realistic threat to our so-called heroes. I mean, if I were the Resistance, I wouldn't take the First Order seriously either. So I'll just probably continue flying off into the distance without evacuating everyone on those small escape crafts and giving everyone a chance to escape into hyperspace. It's only Snoke's ship that's able to track ships through hyperspace, and I'm sure they'll continue following the Radis ship, so why don't they just give everyone a fighting chance to escape, board the escape crafts, and then go into hyperspace like Finn and Rose? They're only going to end up in an abandoned rebel base with the same amount of people on board the ship, no knowledge if it's defendable, and then trap themselves.
It's a trap!
It makes no sense. We know where the story is heading. Let them all escape, Holdo. I digress. If anyone had a brain amongst the First Order, or the writers in this case, why wouldn't the First Order jump into hyperspace and then come back out of hyperspace in front of the Radis, or send out another TIE fighter attack? They seem to do a pretty good job on those bombers the first time round. If we harken back to the good old Star Wars days, Star Wars space battles were fun, visually exciting, suspenseful, and all accompanied by John Williams' great score. However, compare that to now, what we get lumbered with instead are scenes like this. It's clear that original space battles were created by a visionary, someone who wanted to keep pushing the boundaries of technology to visually show us something spectacular on the screen, whilst keeping the heart and the story and the very essence of Star Wars intact. I'm not sure who is to blame here, as The Force Awakens to me seemed like they were building up the First Order as a massive threat until Starkiller Base got destroyed, so that to me shows that the First Order were now vulnerable. Yet, in between that 5-second gap between episodes 7 and 8,
kind of like
the First Order have somehow recovered, got even more ships, and just about to take over the galaxy. And what's funny is that we still haven't seen a thing. First Order taking over the galaxy, that to me sounds exciting. Yet we're forced to watch the parts which seem like they should have been cut from the movie to make way for something more exciting, like seeing the First Order taking on ships, planets, and space stations across the galaxy. Actually seeing the great wider picture. I feel like it doesn't take much thought to rethink certain scenes to make it more exciting and drastically improve the plot, and give the First Order a threatening presence which is felt through their actions on screen. Not by what appears to be unlimited resources and having an even bigger ship that's what's previously come before. Oh, I can't wait for episode 9 for the bigger ships, because that's the only way to now show a threat, not through story but through big things. The space chase following scene could have easily been adjusted slightly, and it changes the whole tone of the movie, making it suspenseful and emotional as the Resistance make their last ditch attempt to flee, then rendezvous at different places to gather support from other planets and systems. That could lead on something exciting in episode 9. If the First Order have sent over Snoke's flagship, which is surrounded by First Order Star Destroyers, which I'm sure are full to the brim in their hangars with TIE fighters, bombers, everything, and if their laser cannons were out of range, another great idea to add into Star Wars that we didn't need, then the obvious choice would be to have the Radis continuously bombarded with TIE fighters and bombers until they're able to escape. This would show the ferocity and ruthlessness of the First Order, hell-bent on destroying the Radis by any means possible, as opposed to just just following them like we had in The Last Jedi. And also with every scene on board the Radish, which seems to be full of windows everywhere, so it kind of would work, we get to see TIE fighters in the background swarming the ship, attacking in groups, trying to knock out the shields faster. Every scene there is aboard the Radish, you can hear TIE fighters fly past trying to knock out the shields in the background, creating tension. And how about we get to see some turrets and cannons on board the Radish fire back, so at least it shows people are trying to fight for their lives as opposed to just standing there, instead of having some political showdown with Holdo, which we really didn't need to see. It would make the whole Radish scene feel like a war zone, everyone running about trying to take out fighters to give them more of a chance to fix the hyperdrive. And whilst we're on that thing, which I thought was another terrible idea among many others, was the hyperspace tracking. I think that just crossed the boundaries of Star Wars again.
Subvert!
So in this more exciting version, I think early on the hyperdrive gets damaged after they escape the resistance base early on in the film. So they spend the whole time trying to fix it, but they don't have the necessary part. It's been destroyed, which is when Finn, Poe, and C-3PO volunteer to go on a covert, dangerous mission to acquire this rare part. They can even contact Maz Kanata, who leads them to Canto Bight. At least it gives them a reason to travel there rather than saving ponies. I'm not sure what that had to do with anything, and then leave the slave children behind. But he got a ring though. They find the parts on Canto Bight, but they get arrested. They pick up DJ, but upon returning to the Radish, they get caught in Snoke's tractor beam. So this time, Poe, Finn, C-3PO, and DJ have to escape, creating even more tension knowing that they're so close to their goal, but so far away as well. If they don't deliver the hyperdrive part, then the Radish doesn't get to jump into hyperspace, and then everyone on board gets destroyed. I feel like already now there's more of a story here than the whole of The Last Jedi. I don't understand why it's so hard to come up with the exciting sequences, which would be nice and refreshing for the audiences, whilst connecting with them. Poe, Finn, and C-3PO escape thanks to DJ, who decides to make a moral decision and do something good for the galaxy for once. DJ is left behind at this point because he has to break the code to drop the tractor beam so they can escape. So we see him make a moral decision and do something good for the galaxy and no longer being a slime ball, which would be meaningful. And then we get a scene harkening back, like when they were escaping on the TIE fighter, where we see an exciting chase scene this time, with Poe's piloting skills trying to get back to the Radish. In between the two massive ships, it could be a chaotic, exciting scene. Perhaps this is the moment where Kylo Ren is hot in pursuit, but doesn't manage to capture the ship as it escapes. But Poe, Finn, and C-3PO have already escaped, but DJ is still left behind. Kylo Ren captures DJ as he was trying to steal a ship. DJ at this point is privy to the Resistance's plans, and we know Kylo Ren can read minds. Kylo Ren ignites his lightsaber, which I'm pretty sure DJ hasn't seen before, and we see DJ say something like,
Wait a minute.
then the shot cuts, so we the audience are left to make up our own decisions if Kylo Ren was able to read his mind and get the information of what the Resistance is just about to do, or if DJ actually betrayed them, got paid, and that's how the First Order finds out where the Resistance are heading to. See, a few changes here and there, the villains and bad guys could be compelling and interesting, and become a substantial threat to the Resistance, filled with plot twists and subverted scenes which doesn't alienate the audience. I just don't know what Rian Johnson was thinking when he was writing up his main story for The Last Jedi. What was going on in his head? Something like,
We've always had exciting space battles, so let's subvert that and make a boring space sequence. But space sequences don't usually take up the whole of the movie, so if we subvert the audience's expectations, we'll make this space chase the whole entirety of the movie. Beautiful.
whether it be the First Order, Space Battle, Snoke, or Kylo Ren, I would have built up the mystery of the Knights of Ren and used them as the main bad guys in Episode 8 that Rey has to face by the end of the movie after training with Luke. Rey manages to dispatch a few, however, Snoke then turns up, and instead of fighting, he uses his power to drain the light out of Rey and turns it to the dark side, and then turns on Kylo Ren because of his imbalance. Kylo Ren doesn't stand a chance. Now this is the point to no longer broken Luke Skywalker shows up. He can now do two things here. He could sacrifice himself fully for Ben, which fully converts Ben back to the light. That could be quite deep. Or he could save Kylo Ren and take him back and turn him back into a hero. This creates a huge cliffhanger for Episode 9. Then Episode 9 could focus on both Kylo Ren and Rey joining together to create a Grey Jedi. That could have been a perfect end climax for Episode 9. There is pure balance in the Force, which is what they've been trying to work towards since Episode 1. And And whilst all this was happening, First Order have gone to various planets destroying fleets, and we actually get to see that. And by the end of the film, they end up at Leia's stronghold. This is the point where they begin to get obliterated by Hux and his troops, until Admiral Akbar returns with the Mon Calamaris and saves what's left of the Republic, Princess Leia, Poe, and Finn. Or maybe Rose Tico too. See what I've done there? With a few simple changes, I've made the Star Wars universe seem huge and interesting again. First Order are bloody powerful. Snoke is a scheming, powerful old bastard, and everything is bleak for heroes, yet a spark of hope remains when Luke returns to Leia with Kylo Ren. I mean, how emotional would that be, actually seeing Kylo Ren turn back into a Jedi and seeing his mum again? I mean, that carries a lot of emotional weight. And if it were really down to me, I wouldn't have even killed off Han in episode 7 either. I wouldn't have even used him up until now. Luke returns to the Mon Calamari fleet and meets with Leia until a familiar ship flies through the hangar bay. Out walks Han and Chewie. They'll return to reunite for one last fight. End movie. I suppose you could argue that it's easy to say these things because I'm not the one that's creating these original characters by myself. I'm just using other people's ideas. I just feel like these people don't have a clue with what to do with the characters they create. But I feel like there was so much potential, but it was all lost because of stupid decisions, bad hiring, and arrogant people in charge. I think where there used to be so much love put into these stories, it now just feels like it's part of a big, giant corporation. Star Wars right now feels really small and uninteresting, thanks to Rian Johnson. These new Star Wars movies are suffering greatly by not creating an opposing force which seems believable. At this point, after Empire Strikes Back, we have the whole might of the Empire. Everything for our heroes is looking bleak. It's been revealed that Luke is the son of the greatest Sith of all time who slaughtered all the Jedi, and Emperor Palpatine is about to make his debut in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. The stakes are high. Compare that to what we've got now. They're making the rebellion again. Rey survived more. Rose teach herself even more things. Kylo Ren back to the trying to run lightsaber. Finn it's been a complete more. Rose teacher. Kylo Ren back to the Kylo Ren doesn't know what he's doing. Neither does the First Order. Yet we're meant to believe that this new threat is greater than the Empire. Then why aren't we seeing this? Why aren't military decisions being made to make us believe the First Order know what they're actually doing, and evil enough to make us feel some actual tension in the scenes? I don't know about you, but how they've gone about creating the First Order, to see them beaten down and defeated with ease on multiple occasions doesn't inspire me with confidence when trying to believe this force is a legitimate threat to the galaxy. It started off well, the beginning of The Force Awakens with the assault on Jakku, but since then, it's gone downhill. And I don't mean just the First Order. Thanks to Rian Johnson's decisions where he had an opportunity to make the First Order rise above anything we've seen before, superseding the Empire, and develop Snoke and Kylo into something new, imaginative and exciting, almost superseding the power of the Sith. Instead, you guessed it, we got subverted. I hope Episode 9 surprises us with something great that will make us believe in the villains again, and it doesn't end up being another one of those "oh my god" moments. Star Wars Celebration is just around the corner, so I'm assuming the trailer for Episode 9 will drop then, which I assume they'd hold it back till then because they're trying to build up suspense and excitement for the story that Rian Johnson has already subverted. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then why not give it one of these? Do it. Click the bell to be notified for future videos. Subscribe to Skyman Universe if you haven't done so already. Take care of yourselves, and remember, the Force will be with you always.